You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome back to RBLR Lightning. My name is Jake Ricker, alongside me with Matt Gann and Joe Zamataro. Guys, welcome back to the show. Hope you guys had an excellent week, and we got a lot to talk about, a lot to recap here in Lightning hockey. Guys, welcome back, though. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for having me, Jake. It's always a pleasure to be back here with both you guys. This is kind of my therapy, if you will. This is where I come to vent, let out all my problems, and you guys tell me how I'm wrong, so I'm always happy to be here. Joe, how are you doing, buddy?
I finally just caught up on my sleep after watching that Vegas game. Feeling pretty good right now, and looking forward to talking some Bulls hockey.
Yeah, these West Coast starts are brutal, to say the least, being up till 2 a.m. 2 a.m. and then having to get, especially if you jobs and have to get up early in the morning, like it's even worse. I mean, these West Coast games, man. But I think this was the last West Coast road trips. I think we're done with them. So that's the good news there. A couple of quick little updates that I think we should mention here. Injury news: Eric Sternak has been out for the last 2 games. He's currently listed as day-to-day. There was no team practice today, so we don't have an official update there, but I would expect him to be back relatively soon. He's missed the last couple of games, but it doesn't seem like it's a major injury. Again, only listed as day-to-day. So hopefully Sternak does get back relatively soon, as he's been one of the solid defensemen for the Lightning over these last couple of weeks. And now the other news update that we have is a really weird one. It's the Jamel Smith situation. So for those that don't know, a couple of days ago, Jamel Smith was loaned to another AHL team in Vegas's AHL team. And it's a really weird situation. I'll try and explain it the best that I can, but essentially it's just a loan. The Lightning still have Jamel Smith under contract, so if they needed to bring him back up because of an injury, they could. And he went to the Henderson Silver Knights, which again is the Vegas AHL team. There was no compensation coming back for the Lightning. There's no timetable on this. And again, it's a weird situation because the Syracuse Crunch are in a playoff race right now. Jamel Smith is 3rd on the team in scoring. So nobody really knows why this happened. It's something that we never really have seen before either in the NHL. And it's still a very confusing situation. The only thing that I can think of that's a possibility here is that maybe the Lightning and the Knights made some kind of trade deal, and one of the parts of the trade was sending Jamel Smith over, and they just asked for him to come over a little bit early before the trade gets finalized and announced. That's one small possibility, but it could just be Jamel Smith wanted to go play in Vegas. I really don't know. It's a very weird situation. But he is currently on loan to the Knights, but he's still under contract with the Lightning. Do you guys have any idea of what's going on here at all? Because I sure don't.
Not a clue.
I still maintain that the GMs made a bet, and whoever lost a player.
Jake, I like your optimism about the trade aspect of it. I don't think that's what it is. I don't see those
Unlikely.
2 teams making a deal together. It'd be cool. I like the optimism of it, but it's hard to read a beat on this at all. I have no idea the significance, what it's for, but hey, whatever, I guess.
Maybe we'll find out in the future. Maybe we won't. I do like Joe's theory the best, though, that somebody made a bet and they lost and had to send Jamel Smith over to the Knights, and that's why he's there. But hey, let's talk about some Lightning hockey. We have an interesting week, to say the least, to recap. We'll start off with the game against the Colorado Avalanche, where the Lightning actually trailed 2-0 early, and things weren't looking so good, but They start to make a push. They come back, and then eventually they win in the shootout by a final score of 4-3. Lightning 54% in the faceoff circle, 0 for 4 on the power play. So that road power play still really struggling. And the penalty kill does go 2 for 2, and the Lightning do get the win and a big comeback victory, and they pick up another 2 points and push this off to a really good start on this road trip, going 2 for 2, 4 points out of a possible 4 points. Good game for the Lightning overall, despite the tough start.
Yeah, the Avs, we thought that they're going to be coming back with a vengeance after what we saw the previous week, where the Lightning got their first shutout of the season against them, and that was one heck of a game between both teams, because both teams were making quite a few mistakes or just allowing some opportunities, but hanging in there and battling it out. It was also a few players started to come to the front that you really want to see turn it on. I was impressed in this game with Ross Colton. He had a beautiful breakaway that an opportunity. His move, he ran out of space, so it wasn't a beautiful breakaway, but a beautiful chance that he was able to get a breakaway. And then he had another really strong drive to the net. And while he's not somebody that was on the score sheet, he's someone that's starting to be a little bit more of a difference maker. And it's great to see that when you're playing a team as stout as the Avs.
Yeah, this was a really entertaining game for me. Of course, happy with the outcome of it. Nothing is better than beating, the team that got to beat you in the finals, of course. And I was expecting, like I predicted, Colorado coming back swinging. They were trying really hard. It seemed like they had something to prove themselves almost. We kind of did luck out in this game as well. Cale Makar, he was absent from it, still dealing with an injury. That definitely helped us a good bit, but it was a really decent back and forth game, kind of, in a way felt like some of the playoff games that we played against Colorado in later last year. But no, I thought overall both teams came out to perform. It ended great for us. I thought, again, everybody played pretty well, but I do want to shout out Anthony Cirelli. He has a goal in this game, and he's just picking up the play where he left off. I thought he was a true standout in this game among many other faces on the Lightning team.
Namestnikov also needs a shout out there as well. He scored his 5th goal of the season, and it was the goal that actually tied the game to get the chance the Lightning to send him into overtime. So he was playing really well in this game. But a solid win for the Lightning. Again, as I mentioned, they pick up another 2 points on the road. It was a great start to this road trip. And then things get weird as they head over to the Arizona Coyotes, and we run into one Connor Ingram, who used to be a member of the Lightning organization, but unfortunately things kind of fell through with him, and then he was traded for a late pick. And Connor Ingram went off. He had a Vezina caliber night where he stopped all 47 shots from the Lightning. He picks up the shutout, and the Lightning lose in the shootout by a final score of 1-0. So yes, even though the Lightning did score in the shootout, it still counts as a shutout for Connor Ingram, because those goals in the shootout don't actually count towards any of the statistics, which is kind of a weird situation, because Brian Elliot also picked up a shutout in this game. Despite facing a lot less shots, he only faced 26, but he also picks up a shutout. And to his credit, he had to be big in the third period. The Lightning mostly controlled this game, I would say, for the most part in the first and second. They had a lot of good opportunities, even some chances on the power play as well. But Brian Elliott had to come up big in the third to make sure the Lightning could at least get into overtime and get 1 point this game. So a weird game. I think the Lightning just ran into a really hot goaltender in Connor Ingram. The Coyotes actually been playing really well as of late, and he was great, and he was I think the number one reason the Lightning weren't able to capitalize here. They did go 0 for 5 on the power play, which was another issue. The road power play has just struggled. I mean, the Lightning do have the 3rd best power play in the NHL right now overall, but if you look at the road versus home power play percentages, there's a major difference. The Lightning are much better at home. And in fact, after this game, the Lightning, the last road power play goal they had scored was against the St. Louis Blues. They were on like an over 20 streak to that point after that Arizona game. So things were not going well on that road power play. And it still kind of is an issue and something that I think needs to be addressed. I don't know what it is about playing at home versus on the road, if it's that longer change or what the deal is. But the power play, a major issue for the Lightning. The Connor Ingram, the main reason the Bolts are not able to pick up 2 points in this game, and where they were, I would say, the better team.
You also have to factor in that this is the second half of a back-to-back with travel as well, so you gotta account for that as well. I don't try to use that as an excuse or a crutch very often, but it is definitely a factor. I think the Lightning, they definitely could have done a better job. They could have looked a little bit more engaged in that Arizona game. I don't particularly think that they they really brought their A game. I think they were just kind of playing with their food a little bit and just, hopefully one might go in. I just didn't think that they were putting in their absolute 100% effort throughout the entire game, especially on the power play as well. But yeah, I'm not saying any of this to take anything away from Connor Ingram, because he played fantastic. Again, still 47 shots is still just an insane high amount of shots in general. But just to have a shutout along with that as well, this is going to be perfectly on brand for me. But towards the end of the game, I was like, I kind of hope Ingram gets this. Like this is, I wasn't rooting against the Bolts. Jake, stop it. But it's such a feel good thing, man. I mean, for a high drafted goalie, like I think he was first or second round pick, something like that. So a relatively high pick for a goalie against his former team as well, the team that drafted him. That's kind of a storybook theme right there. So feel good moment for Connor Ingram. Of course, I wasn't rooting against the Bolts, but I was rooting for Ingram himself. And one last thing before I throw it over to Joe is that, interestingly enough, again, still going to vamp on about Connor Ingram, he breaks the record for most saves in a shutout for your first career shutout, oddly enough, beating Karel Vejmelka, Arizona's other goaltender, their starting goaltender, who set that record last year with 46 saves. And Ingram broke it with 47 saves. So I thought that was really cool.
Interesting. Speaking of stats, I was kind of wondering, I'm not the best at pulling up weird statistics, but I'm curious of what the most number of shots in a game have been where the game went scoreless, because with 47 and 26, that's 73 shots is a lot of shots on without getting a goal for either team. And I wonder if any of our fans out there, anyone listening, can figure out how to pull up that stat. I think that one of us was able to find that there's been 44 scoreless games that the NHL has recorded in its history, and if there's 44, you got to figure that this can't be the highest shot total, but it is still pretty outstanding to see the numbers keep ticking up and both goalies continuing to perform with everything that was being thrown at both of them. And you can't take too much away from Brian Elliott, because a lot of the saves that he made were really difficult ones. The Lightning looked like they were controlling play, playing with their food. I like the way you put it there, Matt, in the first period. And then they started to feel like they were getting a little bit more desperate just when they weren't scoring at all. And then everything changed in the third, like they were out of legs and that they were just trying to hold on at that point. The amount of fancy passes versus just straight shots, the dynamic of the Lightning really changed as the game went on. It's still, it was fun to see Connor Ingram get his shutout. And it's fun to see a goalie battle like we saw the other night. But as great as those storylines are, I would rather have seen the Bolts pick up 2 points. I'm glad they at least were able to get the one.
Interesting, because I don't know. I don't have the same feeling as you guys. I was pretty annoyed that Connor Ingram had to pick up a shutout against his former team.
Jake, you are the ultimate homer.
Guilty as charged, man. Huge diehard Lightning fan. I want them to win no matter what, at all costs. I don't care about your feel good story. I want my team to pick up the 2 points. They do get one out of this, which is good. But I'm interested that you guys said that you thought they were kind of playing with their food a little bit early in that first period, because I didn't really get that feeling personally. I thought obviously it wasn't, there's a lot of things they could have done better, as they could have scored a couple of goals, but I thought they had a lot of good chances, and I thought they just kind of had bad luck running into a hot goaltender. I mean, they had the post a couple of times. There were a couple of chances that just nearly missed the net. I thought they were playing really well overall, especially in that first and second period. So I don't know if I'd use the same phrase, playing with their food, but I think it was just kind of an unfortunate situation.
It looked like they were not necessarily overpassing, but they were doing a lot of passing in the first to generate those scoring chances, making prettier plays. And even though they weren't burying them, they continued with that, style of play. And that's kind of what I mean by that. It was not as much of a north-south game as much as it was east-west in the beginning.
I think they were just trying to be a little too fancy in the beginning. They know it's an inferior opponent. It had the vibes of what could have been a 6-0 blowout for the Lightning. Like they definitely could have. If they got one goal early, they could have completely flooded the rest of the ice with goals. But I just think, first of all, it's hard to get that icebreaker, and they just being a little fancy with it. Just there wasn't a whole lot of like you said, desperation. That's what it is. And I think there's this team is second to none with playing with that desperation. I saw a lot last year. They would be down late in the game and somehow come back and tie it and win it in regulation or even in overtime. Or I guess I said that backwards, but they just didn't have that same level of desperation this game. And I guess I'll give them a little bit of a break here as well. Of course, I never took this game very seriously at all. Like, I still just look back and kind of laugh at it. Like, what? But I don't know. The desperation wasn't there. But again, still, I'm not going to say anybody had a bad game. I just don't think everybody was 100% on board, that killer instinct, except Brian Elliott.
Well, they did have that desperation the night before where they were down by 2 goals at one point, came back and tied it, were down by another goal before, coming back and ended up winning against the Avs there. And that's tough to battle back like that against a strong opponent. And then I think I saw somewhere where the guys didn't get in till 3 a.m. or something for, pretty late before setting up for the Yotes. And, that level of compete is sometimes hard to replicate night in, night out,
I think
especially
that shows
when the other team's not going through it.
I think that shows a little credit to the Lightning, the fact that they were in this game for as long as they were, and it was a battle till the end, despite them coming in super late to Arizona, playing on a back-to-back, and really it was only that third period where they started to struggle a little bit, and Brian Elliott stepped up and made some big saves. We'll have to throw it to the listeners. You guys can follow us at RBLR Lightning. Let us know what you think. Did the Lightning kind of play with their food a little bit? Did they toy with them, or was it just a matter of running into a hot goaltender? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, so be sure to let us know on social media as well. Unfortunately, things didn't get better for the Lightning as they headed into Vegas, another late game once again. And this was just a weird game. This game was all over the place. The goals flying off the handle in the first period. I mean, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in the first period. It was 4-2 in favor of Vegas. You had Namestnikov. He scored early in this one, and then Vegas ties it up within a matter of a couple of seconds, really. And then Stamkos, he scores on the power play. So the road power play struggles look like maybe they're coming to an end there. And then you had the weird Jonathan Marchessault goal where he looked like he might have hit it with a high stick, but a lengthy review later, it's ruled that it was deflected below the shoulders, and the Lightning have to go to the penalty kill because they lose the challenge. Vegas doesn't score, but they score a couple more times before the end of the first. Corey Perry does make it a 1-goal game in the second, but the Lightning are not able to complete the comeback and tie the game up. Vegas eventually gets the empty net, and then the Lightning end up scoring one late to make it 5-4, which is your final. But just a weird game overall. You had all those goals super early in this one. You had the one shot that just trickled past Vasilevsky. You had the challenge goal that was unsuccessful, and the Lightning unfortunately aren't able to get a point out of this one. And I feel like it kind of puts a damper on what was a good road trip overall. The Lightning did what they set out to do, and that's get more points than games played, but a tough loss in Vegas for the Lightning in this one.
Yeah, the fifth goal came with only 11 total shots in the game, which is, I can't remember ever seeing such a low shot count with so many goals scored. And you mentioned that the last goal was an empty, or second to last was an empty net. It's almost like they're playing with empty nets to start the game off.
It's true.
Vassie wasn't sharp for that first period. I think this may have been his worst period that he's had this entire season, and that he did clean up his play quite a bit, but also the chances that that the Golden Knights were given were off some really bad plays. So they were very high risk or high percentage scoring chances that they're able to get looks on Vassie. And man, that Marchessault goal, I still can't imagine why that wasn't above the shoulder. It was almost the same level as his eyes when he deflected it. Mind you, he was kind of hunching over, but that's one of those calls I would have liked to have seen gone the Lightning's way.
So here is where, on brand, I'm going to disagree with you about whether a goal should count or not. But at first, for the first day, really after the game, I thought, man, we got robbed. We definitely did. But because when it's a goal, they're looking at the height of the crossbar. That was definitely over the height of the crossbar. But apparently, something I learned this week is that only. The crossbar thing only matters if the puck gets deflected directly into the net. It didn't. He tipped it to the ice and then batted it in after it hit the ice. So that's when they use the shoulder level, which I still don't think is a perfect benchmark. There are so many different players that are different heights. I don't know. I think that's kind of silly, but still, according to the rules, to me, according to the rules, yeah, it's a good goal. Do I think it should count? No, not really, but I'm not going to argue the rule book here. I'm disappointed with the way it went, but I'm not going to, I don't know.
Well, I think that Lightning got a little bit of a disadvantage on that call, too, with how tall Vassie was, and he was standing fully when the deflection happened. Maybe if he's already in his butterfly, it looks a little bit worse for how high it was.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
That's true. I mean, I thought his stick was definitely angled pretty high. There was on the one angle, the player, I forget who it was standing right in front of where the puck was deflected. So it's possible it was deflected lower on the stick, and that's why it was below the shoulders. I felt like this was more of, the call on the ice was a good goal, and they couldn't really confirm. Now, they didn't say that, but I felt that maybe, because the review took a while, I think they looked at this for a while and said, yeah, we really don't know. Let's just go ahead and confirm it and call it a goal. But you guys know me. I don't like to blame the referees in this one. Yeah, it sucked, and they got the, Vegas then gets a power play after it. But there were so many things in this game that the Lightning could have done just a little bit better, and they would have pushed this game into at least overtime. Another example is that one goal that Vasilevsky let in, where if he just squeezed his arm a little bit tighter and that puck doesn't trickle in, this game's going to overtime. There's a lot of little things like that. It's a tough break for the Lightning for sure. I don't know if it should have been called a goal or not, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
If there is a silver lining to this game at all, it's that after the fourth goal for Vegas went in, and you don't count the empty netter, they went scoreless for two and a half periods, essentially, which
Defense
to me
got better for sure.
One thing that we've been looking for over the last, let's say, month or so is being able to close out games. Albeit this was not a win, they didn't close it out, but to me, I think it was, you can take some positives away from this game. There, it's not all doom and gloom. Of course, that first period was abhorrent. I can't get over it. What happened there? But still, they found a way to collect themselves and have a very, very strong rest of the game defensively, and there was really no lack of offense there. 4 goals should win you any game, but still, the defense. Vegas still had their chances too. They weren't perfect, but they were able to shut them down enough for essentially two periods and some change.
Again, continuing with your silver linings, we saw some productivity out of, I'm not sure if you'd consider it a third line or a fourth line, but at any rate, Corey Perry, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Vladislav Namestnikov were all +2 on the night, where every other major player, Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, they were both, all 3 of those were -3. No one else was positive except for the guys that I was talking about, and seeing our bottom six get a little bit better, it's going to be a very important thing coming up here real soon.
The other weird part about that was that that all those goals come after the Lightning were shut out in Arizona. After you had 47 shots on goal and couldn't get one in the back of the net until the shootout, you then have, what'd you say it was, Joe? 6 goals on 11 shots?
5 on 11. Yep.
5 on 11. Like, so it's like, what happened? Where was this scoring against Arizona? It was a crazy night. The Lightning unfortunately don't get a point, and they don't jackpot in Vegas, but our listeners, you guys can still hit the jackpot by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out the new awesome merch we got for you guys. We got Lightning themed merch, Bucks themed merch, Rays themed merch, Rowdies even as well. You name it, we got it. Be sure to head over there. Again, that's shop.rblrsports.com. The links, of course, are in the description as always, and you can use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. Check out that Tampa Bay shirt for our listeners who are watching it on YouTube. The Tampa Bay, that's one of my personal favorites. So go over there, check that one out, and don't forget to use the code BOLTS for 10% off your order as well. With that said, though, we're going to head into the 3 stars of the week, and an interesting cast that we've got for the 3 stars this week, guys. It's some players that we don't normally have on here too often. And starting off in number 3, it's going to be the Swede defenseman, Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman on our list at number 3. He had 3 assists in this one over the course of 3 games this week. You know, the 3rd star I thought was kind of hard to pick, guys, because there wasn't too many players that stood out, but Victor Hedman was only a -1 in what was a rough week for most defensemen overall, but he does pick up 3 assists for 3 total points and was solid overall, I thought, for the most part.
No, I agree with this. I definitely debated putting Elliot up here, but you brought up a good point. You know, Victor was he played very well throughout 3 games instead of great in just 1 game, so he gets the edge. Honorable mention to Brian Elliott. He just missed, but no, Victor, like I've said, he's been popping up on these star lists more and more and more as the season goes along, and I think that's just kind of a testament to Victor's season, as he started off a little slow, he was battling injury and the points just weren't there. He, temporarily lost his job to Sergachev for a little bit as well. And then all of a sudden something happens. I still don't think he's 100%, but still he's found his equilibrium. He's putting up points. He's playing great defensively, and he's carried that over into this week. Again, unfortunately, he couldn't, be a game breaker this week. Things didn't go our way, but still to be, to have a losing record for this week, I still thought he still played a great game, and he's still just, the best defenseman in the league.
I would like to have seen him shoot in that shootout against Arizona, though. Maybe that would have even moved him higher on our star list.
That would have been fun to see, and maybe, who knows, maybe the Lightning could have picked up the win if Victor Hedman went in the shootout against Arizona. We'll move on to our number 2 star, though, of the week, and this one is going to none other than Vladislav Namestnikov, who a guy has really struggled this season overall, and somebody that we've been saying we would like to see step up. Well, he stepped up this week. 2 goals, 1 assist, but just 2 really solid games, I think, against Arizona and against Vegas as well, and was almost the hero that tied the 1 game up and got the Lightning that extra point. So he played really well this week overall, and I think is a well-deserving number 2 star of the week.
He's playing really well right now. One of the things that stood out to me was specifically in the game against Arizona, he actually had 5 shots on. He didn't score in that game, but getting opportunities to actually take shots makes a big difference when you're getting your offensive productivity rolling. He did get that beautiful goal, and against Vegas got an assist, so he had that +2 for the night. And this is a guy that we really got to see turn it up. And he's starting to turn it around a little bit. We've seen some productivity out of him for last month. And if he continues to roll, that'll really help the team significantly. So putting him on the star list is something I'm really excited about, to see him earn a spot like that.
bear with me here. I love Vladdy, but for the longest time this year, he never really seemed to fit in anywhere, and it still kind of seems that way. Like where does he belong? He doesn't really fit the bill of a fourth liner or even really a third liner. I guess the skill isn't really there as it was projected to be when he was drafted at 10 something years ago, but he's been looking for so long for the right fit on this team. He's been the weak link for the entire season. Like even Belmar's been getting out of his slump. I know me and Joe were pretty hard on Belmar earlier this year, and he was really Vladdy, the last guy on this team that really needed to make his mark and be part of the team for over half the season. He was just kind of a roaming, kind of floating, wandering, and now to see him start to find a role, start to actually contribute. And it's not just about points or goals at all. It's about just looking comfortable out there. Let's look at Nick Perbix, for example. What was the first compliment any of us said out there is he looks like he fits. He looks very comfortable out there, whereas Belmar is almost the antithesis of it. It's, not Belmar, sorry, Namestnikov. And now I think Namestnikov is finally starting to find his groove. He's still not going to be, you don't expect him to be putting up, huge goal totals or point totals, but just get in that groove and just find your own way, pave your own path, and just become a contributing member to this team. I think he's really finally starting to get there. It's still not done. It's still not perfect, but we're on the right track, which is all I'm asking for.
Yeah, hopefully this is a sign of more to come for Namestnikov, because he had a great preseason. A lot of people were expecting some big things for him because he did so well in the preseason. And then unfortunately, it just seemed like he hit a huge road bump. But he has a great week this week, and he gets the second star of the week. But with that said, we'll go to our number one star of the week here on RBLR, and that's going to Scory Perry. Yes, Scory Perry, not Scary Perry, Scory Perry. He was great this week as well. He picks up a goal and 2 assists in this one. I feel like Corey Perry has been fantastic over the last couple of weeks. He could even be a star of the month, in fact. He's just been so good at deflections, being that physical guy we need, making good assist plays as well. Just really solid stuff from Corey Perry. He was really good with Namestnikov as well and helping him get on his game. So Corey Perry gets the first star of the week here on RBLR.
The goal that Vladdy had was off of a Corey Perry turnover where he stopped the clearing attempt. And those sort of plays where he turns over pucks or he's getting gritty in the front of the net, that's where he does his best. And seeing him do that and continuing to do it, continuing to get on the score sheet, like he on the score sheet both games against the Avs, a pretty solid team. You don't expect fourth liners to produce very much, and as he starts to produce more and more, the team plays better and better around them.
I thought he's had a very similar season to, like last year's season. His first year with the team is he didn't score for his first, I think it was close to 20 games in. I think he was held pointless 20 games in, no assists or anything. And after he got that first goal, which I was there for, Corey Perry's first goal for the Lightning.
Where he threw his monkey off his back.
Yep. That was great. I was cheering. I was so happy because, nobody had really bought into Corey Perry yet. Everybody still hated him.
Yep.
So I was really the only guy in there cheering once they figured out who it was. But regardless, skipping all that, after he got that first monkey off the back goal, it really, he wasn't lighting the league up. He wasn't MVP Corey Perry like he was 10 years ago. But still, it was the consistency is what he it was what he was looking for. What we were all looking for was the consistency, and he really started to bring it. He scored 19 goals last year. He just got robbed of a 20-goal season. I don't think he's on pace for quite the same this year, but still, it took him a little bit to really find his groove. He has been arguably better this year. I'd say more effective this year than last year, possibly, or maybe even just above. But I think Corey Perry in this let's say 2 month span, he's been incredible. Very, very underrated piece on this team. Again, he can do a little bit of everything. I just wish his feet were a little bit as fast as his hands, because he's still got wicked hands. I mean, how about that goal against Georgiev? I mean, he deked him out of his skates there. He's still got wicked hockey IQ, great hands. If the feet could keep up, he could play for another 6-7 years.
Corey Perry is heating up because he does not want to lose another Stanley Cup Finals. He's lost so many in a row. He's like, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna win the cup this year and maybe go out on the high note. He's not having it again. So a well-deserved star for Corey Perry. He's been fantastic, and we'll see if it continues. Just to recap for everybody, our 3 stars of the week: Victor Hedman at number 3, Namestnikov at 2, and then Corey Perry at number 1. Let us know at RBLR Lightning what your thoughts are on the 3 stars. Is there anybody else that you would have put in there? Would you have changed some of the positioning for those guys? We'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the 3 stars of the week. We have some other things to talk about, some exciting things, and a happy birthday to give out to none other than the founder, Phil Esposito, who is celebrating his 81st birthday as of this recording. Not only is it Espo's birthday, but he is also going to be one of the inductees into the Lightning Hall of Fame. So if you guys remember, a couple weeks back, the Lightning announced they were doing the voting on who was going to be in the first inaugural class. Of course, we already knew Marty St. Louis and Vincent Lecavalier were going to be in the Hall of Fame automatically because they had their numbers in the rafters and retired. And then we originally thought there were going to be 2 additional people coming into the Hall of Fame, but the Lightning did announce, I think about a week ago now, that it's going to be Phil Esposito, who is the additional inductee. So 3 inductees for the inaugural Hall of Fame. And I think it's really well deserved. I love this pick to start things off for the Hall of Fame for the Lightning. Phil Esposito, the founder. You don't have anything for the Lightning without Phil Esposito. No Stanley Cup, no franchise Steven Stamkos, no back-to-back cups, no John Cooper, no nothing without Phil Esposito. He is the man who had the dream. Everybody called him crazy when he said he wanted to have hockey down in the South, and he proved everybody wrong. And even when the cards were stacked against it, when he wasn't even supposed to get the team, when the team could have moved to St. Pete, he still came through and brought hockey to Tampa Bay, and he is a legend for it and a much well-deserved Hall of Fame induction for him. And just really quickly before I throw it to you guys, for those that don't know, here is the plan for the Lightning. They're going to start kicking off events for the Hall of Fame on the 16th, March 16th, where they're having an event at Topgolf, which you can pay to go into. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing there, but it's a big kind of a corporate, more like event at Topgolf to start off the festivities. And then on March 17th, that's when the actual induction ceremony is going to be. And you can get tickets for this on Ticketmaster, for everybody, and then $20 for season ticket members. And then in the game against the Montreal Canadiens on March 18th, they'll have a small pregame ceremony. So the actual induction into the Hall of Fame is going to be on the 17th, which the Lightning are not playing that day. So 3 days of events, 16th being the little top golf to kick it off. 17th is the actual induction ceremony, and then the 18th is just a small pregame ceremony. And as we understand it, this Hall of Fame is going to be in the 300s levels. Of course, I can't wait to see what this looks like, and there'll be pictures all over Twitter. We'll have it for you as well at RBLR Lightning, so be sure to follow us there to check that out. Guys, your thoughts on Phil Esposito being the inductee, along with Marty St. Louis and Vincent Lecavalier for the inaugural class?
Well, I do think it's pretty cool that they timed it perfectly for when Marty St. Louis will be coming into town, so he can be part of this whole ceremony. It's he's always been one of my favorite players, and I'm glad that he'll be there for the ceremony. In terms of Espo, I mean, there's so much that we have all benefited as a community because of what he's done, and somebody that, you know, he's meant so much to obviously to make the Lightning organization even a thing, but just think about the vibrancy downtown with how much is started to explode around the arena because of the hockey team and how strong the fan base is. I can't imagine what downtown Tampa would look like without the Lightning. It is such a staple. I mean, maybe I'm in a little bit of a bubble in a sense with where I go and the people I surround myself with, but I see significantly more Lightning hats and gear, banners on buildings, and just people in general talking about the Lightning than I ever do with the Bucks, much less the Rays. I mean, this really is a hockey town, and the only person that ever could have envisioned that was Phil Esposito. So I personally am really thankful that that he brought that to my hometown.
In regards to Vinny and Marty, I, in my Lightning tenure, was never able to watch either of them play for the Lightning, which I kind of kicked myself for, but I didn't know what I was missing. But I do know just how incredibly important they both are to this organization. You know, both those guys helping us bring our first Stanley Cup. You know, they just mean so much. They're the only two numbers we have retired. Extremely deserving. I try to watch as much highlights as I can. You know, I'm a big Marty St. Louis fan as a coach, even though he is coaching for another team. It's impossible to dislike him, even though he's a divisional coach. Can't say anything bad about him. You truly, truly can't. In regards to Phil Esposito, I am indebted for the rest of my life to him. I mean, you know, before I was born, he's done so much for me. I mean, again, you guys know, we all know, we're all on the same page here. I mean, this team runs our lives, Jake and me especially, I bet. But this team runs our lives. So huge thank you to Phil. Happy birthday to Phil as well. But man, if I could just get if I could commission a documentary about Phil Esposito, I mean, he's had probably one of the most entertaining, successful, vibrant lives ever. And for him to be just such a outstanding member of the community, a hockey legend, a Tampa Bay hockey legend for never playing a game for him, bringing this team to town. Huge respect to Phil Esposito, and also the best color commentator in the world for anything. I'm forever indebted to Phil. There's no more deserving person. He deserves to be in this Hall of Fame more than Marty, more than Vinny, but all three of these guys, it's a sweep. It's a complete sweep. All these guys deserve to be in.
The best way to end it is to say the couple of words that Phil Esposito is known for: shoot the puck. Just shoot the puck.
Those composite sticks.
Phil Esposito is a legend on the color commentary. He's not technically by the book when it comes to how you're actually supposed to do color commentary, but we love him for it, and he is a well-deserved inductee into the inaugural Hall of Fame for the Lightning. We do have the trade deadline coming up around the corner on March 3rd, just a couple of weeks away, and things are already starting to heat up with the Toronto Maple Leafs making a move as they traded for Ryan O'Reilly. That was the big acquisition just a couple of days ago, and they had it was a 3-team trade as well with Minnesota involved because they needed to retain 75% of O'Reilly's cap hit to make this deal work. They send out a couple of picks as well, a first in 2023, a second in 2024, a third in 2023, and a fourth rounder in 2025 to Minnesota. So Toronto's swinging for the fences on this one with a big deal to bring in Ryan O'Reilly. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to ask you guys this question. Do you think this puts more pressure on the Lightning to make a move at the deadline? Toronto's been the biggest player in the Atlantic Division to make a move so far. Boston hasn't done anything. The Lightning haven't done anything. Do you think this changes the outlook for the Lightning on the trade deadline?
Yes and no. So I don't think there's been any outward pressure. Toronto was facing pressure. Oh, what's Boston going to do? We need to do something. And I think it's definitely not a panic move. Ryan O'Reilly is a great player. I do think they may have overpaid a tad, but I think this was definitely trying to get ahead of both Boston and Tampa. So I think it's definitely, the pressure's not on the Lightning. I think they still have their eyes on probably somebody who we wouldn't even consider to be on the trade market. They're not looking at Erik Karlsson or Patrick Kane or anything, but I don't think that the pressure is any more on now. But I do think they might want to speed up the process maybe.
Well, with the cap situation the Lightning are in, it'd be hard to make any sort of moves in general. But from what I've seen, really when you're trying to evaluate the team, the third and fourth line productivity has been an issue for much of the season. With the trade trade deadline quickly approaching, options are running out, and even more attention has to be paid to the bottom 6 lineup. But fortunately, this week we saw a significant increase in the performances of these guys, specifically Ross Colton, Vladimir Namestnikov, and Corey Perry. While Ross Colton didn't get on the scoring sheet this week, he had a number of really strong looks, including that breakaway and another partial breakaway that he had. Namestnikov scored an absolute beauty against the Avs from that Corey Perry keep-in, and we all remember how he played in the preseason with his 2 goals and 3 points that he had last week. He's starting to heat up. Then there's Corey Perry. Perry found himself on the score sheet with a goal and 2 assists, but also he took 0 penalties, and he ended up +2. He was -14 going into the start of last week, and seeing some positive numbers shines a little bit of a light on what's been a dim season for him thus far. If we see all 3 of these guys continue to be productive and the rest of the bottom 6 continue to improve their play, I think that JBB is, the general manager of the Lightning, might not have to make any moves, and we could have a pretty strong performing playoff team.
See, I'm going to disagree with you there, Joe. I think the Lightning have to make a move before the deadline. And the reason I say that is because you look at 2019, right? The Lightning, top of the world, best team in the NHL by far. They don't need to make a move. They get swept in the first round. And then after that, the Lightning have made moves at the deadline. They win back-to-back Stanley Cups and then make it to the finals last year as well, again, for the 3rd time in a row. I don't know, it's not always going to work out. Making a move at the deadline doesn't guarantee you're going to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, obviously. But we saw the one time the Lightning stood pat at the deadline when they had a really good team behind them, didn't work out for them. And there are a couple of spots where the Lightning could improve. Yes, the cap space definitely makes this a tougher situation, but we said that same thing last year, and JBB went out there and made some great moves for the Lightning that have paid dividends. So I don't know what the move's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be, it's more than likely probably going to be a smaller move, but I think the Lightning definitely need to try to do something to make their team as good as they possibly can be when you get set for the playoffs.
And one thing that we've also learned, one thing that's being taken advantage of, I suppose, but something we've all learned pretty much since 2020, I'll say the start of this decade, is that just because you're cap strapped, you've got no room above you. I think the Lightning have a couple 100,000 to play with.
$700K, a little over $700K they have in cap space right now,
which is virtually nothing. That's a
basically
entry level contract. It's a league minimum contract, but still, the salary cap doesn't matter. I mean, we saw what Toronto could do. We saw what the Rangers could do. Both of these teams are up where the Lightning are at in terms of cap flexibility. I think that there are plenty of ways. Not ways around it. They're not going to pull a Kucherov 2021 move or anything like that. But there are ways that you can get around it. Be creative with it. If there's anybody
75% retained, you move out 1 or 2 other players that have a smaller cap hit, like $1 million something, and the next thing you know, you've got enough cap space to make a move work.
The trouble, though, is that they gave up assets in order to make that happen. I think there was a total of 4 picks that Toronto gave up for that trade, and especially in order for them to keep some of that salary. But the Lightning don't have those sort of assets like they have in the past. They traded them all. We don't even have a first-round pick coming into this upcoming draft.
They don't have as much assets as they did before. That's absolutely true, but I still think they have enough. I mean, you got some players that are definitely good potential players that just haven't cracked the Lightning lineup because of who the Lightning are. And you do have next year's first. I don't know if you really want to give that one up if you don't have to, but I still think they have enough to make it happen. Again, I'm not expecting a Ryan O'Reilly type like trade. Maybe it's a minor depth guy that they go out and get. I don't know, but I just think that something has to be done because the one time they didn't do it, didn't end well. And the last 3 times that they've done it, they've made it to the finals and won 2 of them.
So, Joe, are you of the belief that they're not going to make a move?
That's what I'm thinking. They're not going to make a move. Now, I've been saying that they need to make a move for months now. But as we're coming closer to the trade deadline, you get fewer opportunities. We can already see trades happening. And when trades start happening, it sets a price, right? Then people start to expect to get those same rates for their players, and it makes things a lot more difficult. And also, we don't have as much flexibility with potentially sending somebody down to the minors in order to gain some cap space. It's just really tricky, and I don't know that the Lightning are going to be able to pull it off. I'd love for JBB to continue to pull some magic. He is great when it comes to making these trade deals that really benefit the Lightning. I just don't know if there's going to be that magical piece at this point.
I don't know. I definitely think he's going to take a swing at it this year. He learned the hard way. JB Julian was the GM in 2019, correct? Steve already left. I think he's learned his lesson. They don't have to go out and get Patrick Kane and Jacob Chikrin, but I think they are going to make some kind of significant move. Somebody who can play third line wing or an extra defenseman or something. But I do think that there will be, if they do make a move, there will be one current roster player gone. If we want to call Cal Foote a roster player, I'm going to put him as a roster player. I think he's pretty much guaranteed out the door. I think even if you can, despite what I was saying about him earlier, maybe fit Namestnikov in there as well. I don't know what it might be. It's going to have to be dollar in, dollar out type of deals. But I don't know. I think if anybody can come up with a creative trade, especially somebody who you're not thinking of, that's what my guess is going to be. It's not going to be the 15 same names we keep hearing swimming around in a fishbowl. I think it's going to be something completely out of left field, kind of like a Nick Paul maybe. I know Brandon Hagel last year, he wasn't the belle of the ball, but he was definitely one of the top 3 trade targets. Nick Paul was just out there. Nobody knew. I wasn't expecting it. Hit me by surprise. So, and look how that turned out. So I'm anticipating a deal kind of like that. They don't have to give up, their second round pick or A-level prospects or anything like that, but more expendable type of items, if you will.
It's going to be a fun trade deadline. It's a lot to look forward to. And of course, we're going to have the latest updates right here for you and the RBLR Lightning podcast. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on those episodes. We get closer and closer to the trade deadline. The last thing we have to do today, guys, is kind of preview the upcoming week for the Lightning. They're going to be going up against 4 teams this week. First game is against the Anaheim Ducks. These next 2 games are at home at Amalie Arena. The Ducks have been struggling at 17-33-7, their record. They have not had a good season, but again, as we've stated so many times on this show, you cannot take teams for granted. They will then head to take on Buffalo again at Amalie Arena, 7 p.m. start time. Buffalo, much better team than Anaheim at 28-22-4. And then the Lightning head on the road to take on the Detroit Red Wings at 8 p.m. Red Wings 26-21-8. They are currently fighting for a playoff spot, not quite in there right now, though. And then on a back-to-back, they'll be taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins at 6 p.m. And the Penguins are the only playoff team, or current playoff team, I should say, on this list at 27-19-9. On paper, probably would say it's an easier week for the Lightning, but as we've seen in previous weeks, none of that really matters. Again, I think for the Lightning, just get more points than you do have games. That's the goal week in and week out. Try to win 3, lose 1. So we'll see how things play out for the Lightning, guys. Anything you're looking forward to this week?
I have a gripe, and why do all of our back-to-backs have to be traveling back-to-backs? It doesn't have to be home and home. It can be home and away, but they are all traveling back-to-back. So I don't know. That's one thing, because I don't know, if you look at the Leafs schedule, if they're ever playing a back-to-back, one of those games is guaranteed at home. The league tries to do everything to give the Leafs the easiest schedule. That's just one of my gripes with this upcoming week. No, I think the Lightning, man, they've got no excuse not to come away with at the very least 6 points. I get they're coming off of 2 rough losses, but still we can see that they weren't bad losses. They were just a little emotionally damaging, but still we know what this team is. We know what they can do. They've got no excuse to come away with less than 6 points after this 4-game stint here.
I'm a little disappointed in you, Matt. I didn't hear you once talk about Tage Thompson with this upcoming game.
Don't worry. I will next week.
Saving it for next week.
I hope I can say that, man, Tage Thompson didn't register a single point. Neither did any of the other Sabres. But if he does, it's gonna be bad.
it's gonna be on the cast. I do look forward to the game against Pittsburgh. The other teams, like you mentioned, are fighting for the playoff spot, so they can come away and surprise you a little bit with Buffalo and Detroit. Pittsburgh's right there too, just on the cusp when it comes to wild card. That's going to be a team that I like seeing the Lightning play against, because playing against hungry teams, the hungrier they are, it seems like the more the Lightning respond. And you don't want to see another game like Arizona where you underestimate your opponent. And actually, I think, Matt, you too were saying not to underestimate Arizona, in the preview for that game. The teams that we have coming up are all very beatable, and it should be a pretty good week for hockey. But I mean, it still wouldn't surprise me if 4 points was all that the Lightning were able to muster.
As long as they don't get Ville Husso'd again against Detroit, as long as we just win against Detroit, I'll be pretty happy. I think they've had our number this entire year.
They have had our number this year, and I've got a lot of Detroit fans that have been giving me crap, so I need a win against Detroit. That's my big game, to get a win there. Luckily, though, I have the playoff spot to fall back on against them. They're currently outside our playoff spot. I will say this: the East, by the way, guys, way better than the West. I mean, it's not even close. You saw those records for Detroit and Buffalo. They're not bad records. I mean, they're right outside of the playoff race. So some good teams, despite only one of them being in a playoff spot. Should be a fun week of hockey. We'll be looking forward to it. And, of course, we'll recap everything for you next week here on Monday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. We'll talk to you guys in the next one. Go Bulls!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.